A second test century from skipper Temba Bavuma has left South Africa in a dominant position at stumps on day 3 of the second and final test against West Indies in Johannesburg. The Windies had their best first session of the series as South Africa reached 4 for 69 at lunch. But Bavuma, who scored his last test ton in 2016, produced a spectacular performance to rescue them from a precarious position. At stumps, the Proteas were 287 for 7 with their skipper still at the crease on 171. Wayne Mulder was the only other batsman to pass 20. He added 42. Azara Joseph and Carl Mears both have 2 wickets so far as the hosts piled on a 356-run lead heading into day 4. Craig Brathwaite spoke to the media after the day's play.
I thought Bavuma, played a very good innings. I think he left the ball extremely well, and I can't fault the bowlers, to be honest. I thought all the guys put in a big effort, but I think it was a very, very good innings. Sure, we see the pitch is still a good one, and we got to do something great. It's as simple as that. We didn't score 300 runs for the series, furthermore 300 plus, but we got to do it. So we got to find ways, as we discussed before the second test, and we just support one another. Obviously we're looking to win the game, so we just got to build partnerships. I think that's important. Obviously what happened with me and Tej, was unfortunate. And we're gonna come tomorrow as a team. We got to gel. We got to come strong. We got 3 wickets left, and then we gotta do something special. It's not impossible. I think it's a good pitch, so we just got to support one another and enjoy it tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Craig Brathwaite, the West Indies captain, having the right attitude. Lance, at 103 for 5, yes. South Africa after lunch on day number 3, you're thinking to yourself that you're going to see a repeat of what happened in the first test, the second innings in the first test, and then Temba Bavuma stepped in. Yeah,
you hear this term captain's knock when you start writing sports stories as a journalist, and if there ever was one, that's what we saw today. 171 not out, and the only significant scorer, Mulder, got 40 odd, but without this knock by the captain, the West Indies would be in a very strong position. I know you don't analyse cricket like this, but just subtract the 171 from the South Africa innings and you get 116 for 7 for the South Africans, and that would be a position that the West Indies would feel very favourable in. So the impact of Bavuma's innings today, Ricardo, really significant.
Yeah, and you have to give him extra credit as well, because he's come into this test match under tremendous pressure, took over the test captaincy, got a pair in the opening test, lasted just 3 deliveries, the least number of deliveries for a captain in test cricket. Yes. And then he comes into this match having been dropped from the T20 international side as well. And with all of that pressure and failing in the first innings of this second test, able to produce that fantastic knock. Lance, how do you see it ending up from here? Can the West Indies win this one?
I don't think so, not based on their track record, and when you consider the strength of the South African bowling attack, the West Indies facing an uphill task here. I want to make one comment too before we wrap the segment, Ricardo, and I think the fans of Raheem Jimbo Cornwall would have a lot to say about what they saw today, because Roston Chase looked completely unthreatening in his 15 or so overs that he bowled. None for 45, I think. But forget the figures. He looked completely unthreatening. And, I know that Raheem turns the ball more than Roston
and gets
Chase
a lot
does,
more bounce.
And gets a lot
bit
more
of drift
bounce
as well.
Yeah, so Roston Chase's position in the team not looking good at the moment.
Yeah, hasn't been looking good for a while, but he continues to get those opportunities. All right, staying with cricket, Australia increased their chances of levelling the series against host India after an excellent 2 days of cricket in the 4th and final test in Ahmedabad. Usman Khawaja stood out on day 1 with his 14th test century, and Cameron Green made a century of his own on day 2 as Australia scored over 400 runs in their first innings. Gerard Morrisili has the recap of the second day.
When you're not out.
Australia resuming their innings on 255 for 4, with Usman Khawaja on 104 and Cameron Green on 49. Day 1 was dominated by Khawaja's 14th test century, but Green reached the first milestone on day 2. getting to a half century on the 5th ball.
The second new ball.
And from there, both batsmen switched gears, taking the attack to the Indian bowlers. Khawaja put on a masterclass in boundary hitting, striking 21 fours in his 422 ball knock. Green joined in with 18 fours of his own.
Through the offside, it just moved.
This boundary brought up 150 for Khawaja. The left-hander acknowledges the crowd, but his mind set on a double.
150 for Usman Khawaja. An innings of monumental patience.
Australia completely on top of the hosts, heading into the lunch break at 3:47 for 4, with Green just 6 runs away from a century. And he would bring up that century in the 3rd over after lunch with this boundary.
Cut away, and that'll be his 100. A maiden 100, something to cherish, and that too coming into India. And the team down 2-0, trying to make a comeback. It's been a special knock from somebody who's seen as the future of Australia.
Green and Khawaja managed to put on 208 for the 5th wicket before Ravi Ashwin removed Green for a well-played 114. Ashwin was a ray of sunshine in the gloomy day for the Indians, introduced in the 2nd session, but producing a brilliant spell of bowling. The spinners continuing to show their dominance in India. Aksar Patel picking up the wicket of Khawaja for 180. Ashwin ended with 6 for 91 as Australia were dismissed for a mammoth 480. Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill opening the batting for the hosts. Sharma getting their reply off to a good start with a boundary. Gill took the cue from his skipper, getting a boundary of his own. India were able to squeeze in 4 boundaries before the end of play. And at stumps, they were 34 without loss to trail by 444 runs.
Yeah, so a massive turnaround there in the India-Australia series. Remember, India winning the first 2 test matches, the Australian batsmen looking at sea. And they won the 3rd test, a much improved performance there. And in the 4th test, Lance, the Australians showing some real quality.
Yeah, determination and resilience. I think 2 watchwords for Australia's cricket. They have demonstrated that for decades. And tough to win in India in Test cricket. And the Aussies are showing that they have the determination to fight for a victory here. If they win here, it would mean that they would win back-to-back tests and avoid losing the series, having lost the first 2. Khawaja is a player that I remember Ricky Ponting having a lot of time for. Ricky Ponting has said over and over that he thinks Khawaja, even in times when his form was a little dodgy, earned his spot based on his ability. And I think when I've seen him bat in recent years, I understand why Ricky Ponting has a lot of time for him. Cameron Green is a big, tall, all-rounder, Ricardo, 6'5", and I have a lot of time for him as well. He's a very determined player, and his bowling isn't bad. Yeah. So his all-round skills pretty strong, and good to see him getting his first Test 100.
Yeah, neither looked as if they would get on. Watch a lot of that match last night, and was especially impressed with Khawaja and his stroke play. He is such a delight to watch, the left-hander. And Cameron Green eventually falling to a sweep shot, the first one he had played in the match, and that led eventually to the Australian slide. And a really good bowling performance from Ashwin, because it wasn't a surface that was offering a lot to the spinners, in stark contrast actually to what we had seen in the 1st and 2nd test matches. But the sweep shot just bringing back memories of what happened in the 2nd test for the Australians, and Cameron Green had managed to keep that away for 114 runs before he finally brought it out, and it led to his dismissal. So Australia will be looking for the win to level the series at 2-2. India looking for the win to take the series 3-1, which would mean that they would qualify for the World Test Championship. If they can't get that 3rd win, though, they'll have to wait to see what happens in the series featuring New Zealand and Sri Lanka. That's it for Cricket Segment on this Friday. Stay with us. More to come.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.